Hi, my name is Asasa. I was an operations planning lead at Apple for 4 years working on project launches, and I'm going to expose 7 toxic productivity habits that made us ruthlessly efficient. It's also one of the only man or fan company that hasn't done any layoffs yet, but it comes with a price. And disclaimer, I'm just sharing from my personal experience as an ex-employee. If you want to look for official statements, please reach out to tcook@apple.com. He does read and reply occasionally. Work starts on Sunday. We often have Monday meetings and presentations, so to get the latest weekend data and be prepared, most of us will start working on Sunday evenings voluntarily because that gives us an edge. Most people who work at Apple are overachievers. No one asks us to work on Sundays. We just do it because if we set things up in advance, we will be more efficient and productive on Monday. If you scramble on Monday, you will likely make a mistake, and then you'll have more problems to take care of. Apple actually screened for this mindset in their interview process. I remember that in my round 1 or 2, I was a fresh grad, and Apple sent a bunch of us an 8-page case study at 5 p.m. on Friday. Submission was due on Monday noon. So the message was clear. If you are not willing to work on weekends, you'll fail in the initial screening. They weren't just testing skills, they were testing if you will sacrifice your personal time for results. So this habit will absolutely make you more prepared than your competition. You will walk into tough meetings and presentations with the latest data, the most accurate analysis, and a real solid proposal, while everyone else is still trying to process the situation. But you know the cost. Sunday stops feeling like a Sunday, your week never really ends. And once you start working on Sunday, you realize something else shifted too. The way you communicate completely changes, which brings us to the second habit. Interrupting is power. At Apple, cutting someone off mid-sentence wasn't seen as disrespectful. It was seen as decisive. Time was currency, and we were trained to get things done fast. I came from 2 East Asian cultures that are very big on niceness and politeness. So I used to be the person who would never interrupt anyone. And I was a really good listener. But after working at Apple, you either learn to interrupt or you never get a word in, which affects your productivity and results. Cutting people off mid-sentence wasn't something that I was able to do before working at Apple. Now it's a tool in my arsenal. I don't do it often because I don't like it, but I can when I need to. But it's worse than that. A senior VP who is still working there actually gave advice to some of the more senior ICs who are trying to become people managers. And the advice was to cut people off when they're talking, not because it's efficient, but because it makes you sound more senior and it's better for promotions. Well, interrupting people will make you sound more confident and decisive, and people will see you as someone who cuts through noise. But it's so rude. And people start avoiding and sharing ideas with you because you must be too busy and too important to hear what they have to say. You appear more powerful at the expense of building connections. And speaking of cutting through noise, Apple had a very specific phrase that we use every day. Skip the pleasantries. Net it out is an internal lingo that we use on a daily basis. If someone's not getting to the point in a meeting or in a conversation, we will literally say, "Can you net it out?" And instead of saying, "This is okay, but maybe we could try another approach instead," we will say, "This is bad, fix it." We almost treat brutal honesty like a badge of honor. Because Steve Jobs did it all the time. I'm gonna share with you an email sent by him to Adobe CEO in 2005. Especially this part. I have a standing policy with our recruiters that we don't recruit from Adobe. It seems you have a different policy. One of us must change our policy. Please let me know who. The email is short and the message is clear. There's not a word wasted on pleasantries, and it's also a little bit aggressive. This habit will make your communication and feedback incredibly clear. There's no confusion about what needs to change, and people will know exactly where they stand. But when I do it outside of Apple, I sound like an asshole. And I unnecessarily hurt a lot of people's feelings outside of work. I think there's a fine line between being direct and being cruel. We just got used to cutting out empathy in the name of efficiency. If you think our communication was intense, wait till you see how we do presentations. obsessive attention to details. In our presentation to leadership, we use one single slide. There's no page two. So everything had to fit on one slide while remaining perfectly readable. The good thing is that it trains us how to differentiate what's important and what's not, and hones our summarization skills. But it also means a disproportional amount of time was spent on designing that one slide. I once spent 5 to 6 hours formatting a single slide. I had to move it pixel by pixel because it does matter. I've seen people call this out directly in presentations. They just say that block looks a little misaligned. I saw that slide too. It was 2 pixels off. Attention to details is a habit that all Apple employees have, which is a good thing. But I sometimes wonder if we need to take it so far all the time. Remember there was one night before launch and I was staying in the office till 1 a.m. The AC was already off. I thought that I was the only one left in the office. And I saw across the office there's another team. There's a girl squinting at her screen on the verge of tears. She was struggling to move a number around the slide because there's no place to put that point. And she might need to redesign the whole page. We treat internal decks like actual products with the same obsessive attention to details that goes into designing an iPhone. And this habit will make your presentations, your documents, products absolutely stunning. But the cost is that you'll spend 5 hours perfecting something that you should take 30 minutes, and you'll never be satisfied with good enough. So all this perfectionism creates problems, and Apple had a very specific way of handling problems. Tell everyone and their grandma. This is an actual phrase that we throw around. So basically, always over-communicate instead of under-communicate. Escalate early and often. And you might think, oh, well, I don't want to make a fuss over nothing. No, if there's any risk, you don't keep quiet. You raise to leadership and spell out the worst case scenario. Calling out issues ahead of time was respected. At Apple, you preventing a disaster is much more celebrated than you fixing a disaster, which is the opposite in many other companies. Because of this habit, people become very annoying very fast. So instead of going to the person directly when you notice an issue, people will CC the whole department and everyone's managers to notify them of this issue. It makes people paranoid, and people started flagging every small risk. So be very careful if you do this in other workplaces. You'll be seen as jumping the gun or just a dirty snitch. But escalating problem was just the surface. To really get ahead, you needed information that wasn't in any official report. Gossip as intelligence. Apple works on a need-to-know basis. Everything is confidential. So very early on, my manager told me that I need to care about what people are saying. Office gossips. Team sentiment. Why? Because official data moves too slow. It's more efficient if we hunt for unofficial leaks from X7 teams to piece up information so that we can pre-solve problems. We were really just trying to save time. We had so much to do. It's just more productive when you can predict the future. This habit will give you information advantages that others don't have. You will be able to anticipate changes and position yourself better. But the cost is that you become someone who's always listening for hidden information. You start seeing office relationship as transactional. It's just emotionally taxing if you always have an ulterior motive. So all of this, the Sunday work, the interrupting, the perfection, the escalation, the intelligence gathering, it creates one final inevitable reality. Work-life integration. There is no work-life balance, only integration. You're never truly off at Apple. Even on vacations, you are expected to check messages, pre-read decks, and be ready to jump on calls if necessary. Everyone I know who works at Apple brings their work laptop overseas on vacation because there's no buffer time when you return. You're expected to jump straight back first thing in the morning, fully caught up like you never left, because if you don't, you waste everyone else's time. And they're all just waiting for you to catch up. Work-life integration means that you have a stronger control and ownership of your work. Your performance and results will be great because your work is your life. It will make you incredibly reliable and capable. You'll become someone who everyone can count on in any situation. But your personal time isn't yours. It's just work from a different location. Many of us are so used to working all day long, 7 days a week, push harder, continue pushing, and slowly we start to lose the ability to mentally disconnect. Look, I'm not saying Apple is evil, not at all. And these habits exist because they work really well. I left Apple due to other reasons, it's not because of this. But efficiency without humanity isn't sustainable. These habits will make you productive in the short term and empty in the long term. The question isn't whether these habits work. Clearly they do. It's whether or not it's worth the cost. And so I'm curious, have you worked at a company with toxic productivity culture? Please let me know in the comments. And if this resonated with you at all, you can subscribe for more behind the scenes experiences working in tech. Talk to you next time. Bye.